I didn't raise my voice when I saw his shoes by our front door. I just realized my marriage had been negotiating against me for months. Hey friends, please subscribe and turn on notifications, like this video, and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you. It's all thanks to you. I'm 34 and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm the kind of person people describe as steady, not exciting, not dramatic. The guy who keeps receipts, pays bills early, and fixes the leaky faucet before it becomes a ceiling stain. That used to be a compliment in my mind. In this story, it turned into a survival skill. My wife, Brooke, was the opposite in the best way. She laughed loudly in restaurants. She made friends with baristas and neighbors. She could turn a boring Wednesday into a small event just by deciding it was. We'd been together 6 years total, married a little over 3. We didn't have kids yet. We talked about it, but we were waiting until things slowed down, which is what ambitious couples say when they don't realize things never slow down on their own. Brooke worked in marketing for a mid-sized healthcare company. I managed projects for a commercial HVAC outfit, nothing glamorous. I was proud of it anyway. We bought our townhouse the year after our wedding. We hung framed photos in the hallway like we were building a museum of look, we did it. There was one photo I always noticed. My dad at our engagement party, smiling like he was finally convinced I'd end up okay. He died unexpectedly the following spring. A heart problem no one knew about. Brooke held my hand through every part of it, and that cemented her in my mind as my person. The safest place. That's why the first crack didn't feel like a crack. It felt like a misunderstanding. It was the week before Christmas 2 years ago. We'd both been busy. Brooke's team was finishing end-of-year campaigns. I was closing out jobs before contractors disappeared for the holidays. We were tired in that shared, adult way that makes you feel like you're building something together. One night, Brooke was on the couch beside me, phone angled away, smiling at something. I didn't think affair. I thought work gossip. She was always the one who knew who got promoted and who was secretly dating whom. Her phone buzzed again. She laughed under her breath, then stopped when she noticed my eyes flicked toward her screen. Her thumb moved fast, like she was swiping away a notification. "What's funny?" I asked. "Just work stuff," she said, casual and quick. "You wouldn't get it." That line shouldn't have mattered. It did, not because I needed the joke explained. Because you wouldn't get it, is how people build a private room and close the door. I didn't accuse her. I didn't demand her phone. I just nodded and turned back to the TV, acting like my chest hadn't tightened. Later that night, she took a shower. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, screen lit up from a new message. I walked past it, and for some reason I stopped. The name on the banner notification wasn't one I recognized. Ethan Work. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't pick it up like a thief. I just stood there and stared at the preview line. Can't stop thinking about last time. Hotel after the holiday rush. My body reacted before my brain did. My mouth went dry. My heart started doing that heavy, slow thump like it was trying to break down a door. Brooke came out of the bathroom in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. She looked relaxed, normal. She smiled and asked if I wanted hot chocolate. I remember thinking, very clearly, if I say something now, it's going to sound like I'm the crazy one. So I did the most cowardly, careful thing I've ever done. I waited. The next morning, I got up early for work. Brooke was still asleep. Her phone was on the nightstand. The screen lit when I brushed it by accident, and I saw the message thread was open. Either she'd left it open, or my brain is rewriting details to make it feel less like I crossed a line. I read. It wasn't just flirting. It wasn't a coworker making a dumb comment and Brooke shutting it down. It was a full conversation that had been going on for weeks, maybe longer. The words weren't graphic in a porn way, but they were unmistakably intimate. Last time was repeated. Next time was planned. There were winky faces and inside jokes and the kind of familiarity that doesn't come from conference calls. And yes, there was the hotel idea. Not a joke, not a meme, a plan. I did one thing I'm not proud of, but I'm also not sorry for. I took photos of the screen with my own phone, not because I wanted revenge, because I knew how fast a story can be rewritten when the evidence disappears. Then I put her phone back exactly where it was and went to work like my world hadn't tilted. All day, I kept replaying the same question. How do you confront the person you trust most without turning your home into a courtroom? That evening, I cooked dinner. Brooke came home late, kissed my cheek, and started talking about her day like she hadn't been texting another man about meeting in a hotel. After we ate, I said, "Can we talk?" She sat across from me, still scrolling her phone. "Sure." I kept my voice level. "Who is Ethan?" Her face didn't change much, but her eyes did, a microsecond of recalculation. "Ethan," she repeated, "just a coworker." "Are you flirting with him?" She blinked, then laughed like I'd asked if she was secretly a spy. "No." I didn't move, I didn't raise my voice. "Brooke, I saw a message preview. It didn't sound like coworkers." Her smile tightened. "You saw a preview and decided I'm cheating. That's insane." "I'm asking you to show me the conversation," I said. She picked up her phone, tapped, then looked up at me with an expression that was half triumph, half insulted wife. "What conversation?" she said. "There's nothing." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "You deleted it." "I didn't delete anything," she said. "There was never anything to delete." That's when I slid my phone across the table and showed her the photos I'd taken. Her face went pale, and then, "This is the part that still bothers me," she got angry. Not ashamed, not heartbroken, angry. "You went through my phone," she said, like that was the only crime in the room. "I read what I read," I said. "Explain it." Brooke stared at the pictures like she was seeing them for the first time. Then she inhaled and did something that should have been my cue to stop trusting her. She changed tactics so smoothly it could have been rehearsed. "It was stupid," she said. "He flirts with everyone. It was like fantasy talk, not real. We never met. Nothing happened." "Then why is he talking about last time?" I asked. She hesitated. "He exaggerates. He likes to pretend." I let that sit. "So you're saying you were role-playing with a coworker about sleeping together for weeks?" Brooke shook her head fast. "It wasn't like that. It was just texting. I didn't think you'd ever see it." There it was, not denial, not apology, just an admission that secrecy was the plan. I stayed calm because if I didn't, I knew I'd lose control of the conversation. Calm doesn't mean unhurt. It means you don't hand the steering wheel to your emotions. "I need the truth," I said. "Have you met him outside work?" "No," she said, too quick. "No, never." "Then message him," I said. "Right now, in front of me. Ask him about the hotel." She looked offended, like I'd asked her to bark. "That's humiliating." "So is this," I said, tapping my phone. She held my gaze for a long moment, then unlocked her phone and typed. I watched her screen like I was watching a bomb technician cut a wire. Brooke wrote, "Did you ever book that hotel you mentioned?" Ethan replied almost immediately, "Not yet." Brooke typed, "Were you actually expecting us to meet?" Ethan, "No, I was just talking, you know that." Brooke turned the phone toward me like she'd won a debate. "See," she said, "it was all talk." It should have reassured me. It didn't, because the reply was too clean, too convenient, like a script. But I wanted my marriage to be true more than I wanted my suspicion to be correct. That's the part people don't understand until they live it. You don't cling to a lie because you're stupid. You cling because the truth would detonate your life. So I said the sentence that bought Brooke time and cost me peace. "Okay," I said, "if that's the truth, it ends now. No more messages, no more jokes, no more private anything." Brooke nodded like a person agreeing to stop biting their nails. "Of course, I already stopped. I will, I promise." We went through the motions of making up. We watched a movie. We went to bed. She wrapped her arm around me like she still belonged there. But my brain didn't sleep. For the next few weeks, I did what people do when their trust is injured. I looked for stitches. I checked for signs of bleeding. I hated myself for it. I'd never been the phone-checking husband. I'd always believed privacy and secrecy were different things. Now I was trying to figure out where that line actually lived. I checked her phone more than once. I told myself I was verifying, not controlling. Brooke noticed. Of course she did. One night she said, "I can't live like I'm on trial." "I can't live like I'm being lied to," I said. She stared at me, then changed her passcode. "I'm doing this because you won't let it go," she said, "not because I'm hiding something." And I told myself that was reasonable. People deserve privacy. Couples rebuild trust. I can't demand access like a warden. I tried to be the bigger person. Then in late January, it happened again in the dumbest, smallest way. I needed a verification code to log into our internet provider account. The code was sent by text to Brooke's phone because years ago we'd put her number on the account and we'd never changed it. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the counter. The screen lit with the code. I didn't need to unlock it. But under the code was another notification. I sent 2 new messages. One was a voice note. The other was a photo preview that left no room for misunderstanding. A shirtless mirror selfie. Not nude, but definitely not work stuff. The third message line showed a single word. Sweaty face sweat. I stood there staring at the screen like my brain couldn't process something it already knew. When Brooke walked in, towel around her hair, I didn't yell. I just held up her phone so she could see what I saw. Her face hardened immediately, as if she'd been waiting for this moment again. That's nothing, she said. Explain, I said. She rolled her eyes. He's been going to the gym. He's proud. He sends it to everyone. Does he send sweaty with tongue emojis to everyone? I asked. Brooke exhaled sharply, annoyed. You're twisting it. I want to see the rest, I said. Open the conversation. She picked up her phone, tapped, then froze. It's gone, she said. I stared at her, gone. I must have deleted it, she said. Accidentally, you know when you swipe the wrong thing. I didn't move, so the one conversation I asked to see, the one that proves whether you're lying, is the one conversation you accidentally delete. Brooke's eyes flashed. Why are you doing this? You never forgave me, so what's the point? You keep punishing me. That sentence was a masterclass in turning the victim into the villain. I said quietly, I'm not punishing you. I'm responding to what you're doing. I wasn't doing anything, she snapped. He's annoying, he's flirtatious. I can't control what he sends me. You can control whether you keep the door open, I said. She crossed her arms. So what, you want me to quit my job? I want you to set boundaries, I said. Real ones. HR, a transfer blocking him, something that isn't a promise while your phone keeps buzzing. Brooke shook her head like I was being unreasonable. You're asking me to blow up my workplace because you're insecure. That word again, insecure, the easiest label to slap on a husband who notices the smoke. I didn't argue, I didn't try to convince her, I did something else. I said, I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight. She scoffed, fine, be dramatic. I walked away with my chest aching and my mind suddenly calm in a way that scared me. Not calm because things were okay, calm because a decision had started forming. Over the next week, Brooke and I lived like roommates who occasionally hugged in the hallway. She acted like nothing happened. I acted like I was still figuring it out. The truth was, I was building a plan. Not a revenge plan, a stability plan. I called a therapist and scheduled an appointment. I called a lawyer and asked what separation would look like in North Carolina with a mortgage and shared accounts. I opened a new bank account in my name and moved my direct deposit there. I made copies of important documents, deed, insurance, car titles, tax returns. I didn't hide the originals. I just made sure I had my own set. If you've never had to do that, it sounds cold. It is. It's what you do when you realize you might be living with someone who can rewrite reality and then accuse you of imagining the ink. Brooke noticed I was quieter. She asked if I was okay. I said, I'm processing. She started being sweet again in a way that felt strategic. She cooked my favorite meal. She suggested a weekend trip. She touched my arm more. She said, I miss us. I wanted to believe her. I did. I wanted the version of my life where this was a mistake and not a pattern. One Thursday night, she sat beside me on the couch and said, let's start fresh. I'll do better. I'll stop talking to him. Show me, I said. She frowned. I said I will. Show me, I repeated. Block him, right now in front of me. Brooke's face closed. You're controlling. I'm requiring safety, I said. She stood up abruptly. I can't live like this. I nodded once, then we need to change something. She stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door. That night I booked a short-term rental across town, a plain, furnished one-bedroom, nothing dramatic, just space. I told Brooke the next morning, I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while. Her eyes widened. Are you serious? Yes, I said. She immediately shifted into performance. tears, trembling voice, "You're abandoning me over texts." I kept my voice even. "I'm stepping away from dishonesty. There's a difference." "Nothing happened," she insisted. "Then you'll have no problem rebuilding trust with transparency," I said, "but you haven't done that." Brooke wiped her cheeks, then looked at me like I was the cruel one. "You're throwing away our marriage." I said, "I'm refusing to be the only one protecting it." I left that day with a duffel bag and my laptop. I didn't empty the house. I didn't take furniture. I didn't leave a dramatic note. I simply removed myself from the environment where I was being told to accept contradictions as love. The rental was quiet. The first night, I slept 8 hours straight for the first time in months. That's how I knew my nervous system had been screaming even when I tried to act normal. Over the next 2 weeks, Brooke called, texted, apologized, blamed, begged, and then got angry again. It came in waves. One day it was, "I'm so sorry, I'll do anything." The next day it was, "You're acting like a victim when you're the one who snooped." I stayed steady. I answered when I was calm. I stopped answering when she tried to pull me into late-night emotional fights. I told her, "If we talk, it's during daylight. If you want to fix this, it's through counseling and actions, not pressure." She agreed to counseling. We booked it. I felt a small, cautious hope. Then on a Friday afternoon, Brooke texted me, "Can you come home tomorrow morning so we can talk? I want to fix this. I'll show you everything. No more secrets." I sat in my rental, staring at the message. It read like a peace offering. It also read like a setup, but I told myself I couldn't rebuild anything if I assumed the worst forever. So I agreed. I said I'd come by Saturday at 10. Saturday morning, I drove back to our townhouse with my hands steady on the wheel, but my stomach tight. I told myself I was going there for a conversation, not a reconciliation. My lawyer had already explained what separation could look like. I wasn't walking in blind anymore. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something small immediately. A car I didn't recognize. Not in a neighbor's spot, in our spot. It was a gray sedan, clean, the kind of car a young professional drives. I sat there for a moment, engine off, listening to the tick of cooling metal like my body was trying to delay the next 10 seconds. I walked to the front door and unlocked it with my key. And that's when I saw the shoes. Men's dress shoes, set neatly by the entry bench like they belonged there. My first thought wasn't rage, it was clarity, a quiet, exhausted clarity. I walked in slowly. The house smelled like coffee. 2 mugs were on the counter, not one. I heard movement upstairs, a door closing, a quick hushed sound like someone was being told, "Wait." Brooke came down the stairs in a sweatshirt I recognized. Mine. She stopped halfway when she saw me. Her face flashed through emotions like a deck of cards. Surprise, fear, calculation. "You're early," she said. "It's 10, I replied. She swallowed. I was just cleaning. I nodded, still calm. "Who's here?" She forced a laugh that sounded like it hurt. "No one." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply walked to the bottom of the stairs and looked up. A man stepped into view on the landing. Mid-30s, maybe. Hair damp like he'd just washed it. He was pulling on a jacket like he'd been caught without his script. He raised his hands slightly, not surrendering, just signaling he didn't want trouble. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. That was Ethan. I didn't need introductions. He looked at Brooke like she'd promised him this wouldn't happen. Brooke's mouth opened, then closed. In that moment, I understood something with a sharpness that almost made me smile. Brooke wasn't just flirting. Brooke was managing 2 realities at once, and I'd been the one expected to accept the version that kept her comfortable. I looked at Ethan and said, "Grab your stuff and go." He hesitated. I added, still calm, "Now." He nodded quickly and descended the stairs, avoiding eye contact. Brooke stood frozen like she was waiting for me to explode so she could call me unstable. Ethan stepped around me toward the front door. He paused at the entryway, his hand on the knob, and said again, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't think." I cut him off gently. "You thought what you wanted to think. Go." He left. The door clicked shut. Brooke exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for minutes. "That's not," she started. I held up my hand, not aggressive, just final. "Don't." Her eyes filled with tears instantly, like she had a switch. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I nodded, but it did. She took a step toward me. Please let me explain. I said, if you explain, you'll lie, and I'm done collecting lies. Brooke's tears spilled. I was lonely, you left. I left because you kept the door open, I said. You didn't close it, you widened it. It wasn't serious, she pleaded. It was a stupid mistake. I looked around our home, at the framed photos, at the holiday decorations still half up because we'd never fully taken them down, a life staged for permanence. Then I looked at her and said the sentence that ended my participation in the illusion. I'm filing for separation. Her face changed, anger cut through the tears. So that's it, you're just leaving, after everything we've been through. I'm not just leaving, I said. I'm choosing reality. Brooke's voice rose. You're acting like I'm some monster. I stayed level. You invited another man into our home and told me no one was here. That's not a mistake, that's a decision. She opened her mouth, then tried a different angle. You can't prove anything happened. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. In her mind, if there wasn't a signed confession, she could still argue the court case of my feelings. I said, I don't need to prove it for you to respect me. I needed you to respect me before it got here. Brooke's shoulders sagged. What do you want me to do? I said, I want you to stop trying to control the narrative. I walked past her up the stairs into our bedroom. I didn't slam doors. I didn't throw things. I took a suitcase from the closet and began packing my clothes. Brooke followed me, crying, then blaming, then bargaining. I'll quit my job, she said. I'll block him. I'll give you my phone. I'll go to therapy every day. Each offer arrived too late, like a firefighter showing up after the building is ash and asking where the smoke is. I didn't respond to every line. I responded to one thing only. I'm going to communicate through my lawyer, I said. That sentence drained the drama out of the room. Lawyers removed the stage lights. Brooke snapped, you're cold. I zipped the suitcase. No, I'm finished. I took my suitcase downstairs. Brooke followed, now quieter, like she realized the tantrum wasn't working. At the door, she said, so I'm just supposed to be alone in this house. I looked at her and my voice softened just slightly, not out of pity but out of closure. You weren't alone, I said. That was the problem. Then I left. That afternoon, I met my lawyer. I provided the screenshots I'd taken weeks earlier. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't editorialize. I simply documented. We drafted a separation agreement proposal. Who pays what, how the mortgage is handled, how we split the accounts, what happens with the cars, calm logistics, adult consequences. I changed passwords to my personal accounts. I redirected my mail. I updated beneficiaries, not out of spite, out of necessity. People don't talk about the administrative side of heartbreak, but that's the part that keeps you from bleeding out financially while you're emotionally compromised. Brooke sent me long texts. Some were apologies, some were accusations. She told friends and family her version, which I'm sure made her look like a misunderstood wife married to a suspicious man. I didn't counter-campaign. I didn't post online. I didn't call her coworkers. I didn't threaten anything. I simply told our mutual circle the truth in one sentence when asked. I found ongoing inappropriate messages. She promised to stop, and then I walked in and found him in our home. People can fill in the blanks without you drawing pictures. The hardest part wasn't the paperwork. It was the quiet at night, the muscle memory of reaching for my phone to text her something stupid, the impulse to share a joke, the fact that my mind still tried to locate the old Brooke, the one who held my hand at the hospital, the one who cried with me at my dad's funeral, the one who said she couldn't imagine life without me. Therapy helped, not in a magical way, in a slow, practical way. My therapist said something I wrote down. You are not grieving the person in front of you. You are grieving the person you believed you had. That explained why it hurt like a death, because it was the death of certainty. A month later, Brooke asked to meet for coffee. I agreed, public place, daylight, short time limit. She looked tired, real tired, not performative. She said, I ruined everything. I didn't argue. I said, yes. She flinched like she expected me to comfort her. I didn't. She asked, "Is there any chance?" I shook my head slowly. Not for me. Brooke's eyes filled again. How can you be so sure? I said, because you were sure enough to keep lying. She whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I replied, "Intent doesn't erase impact." We sat in silence for a moment. Then I stood, paid for my coffee, and left. No dramatic exit, just a clean boundary. By spring, the separation became divorce. It was straightforward because we didn't have kids. We sold the townhouse and split the equity. Brooke kept her car. I kept mine. We divided the furniture like adults dividing a shared history into objects. On the day the papers were final, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a bag of rocks called maybe and finally set it down. Months later, I heard through a mutual friend that Brooke transferred departments, that Ethan left the company. Whether they dated or didn't date after everything, I genuinely don't know. And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to investigate. That's the real win, not karma, not revenge. Freedom from needing answers from someone who treated truth like a flexible tool. I still believe in love. I just don't believe love survives where honesty is treated as optional. So I want to ask you this. If you found those messages, would you try to rebuild after the first lie, or would that be your line in the sand? Let me know what you would have done.